everyone. Thanks so much for joining me here today as we get to talk about one of my favorite subjects, comic books. My name is Jose. I love comic books. I love talking about them. I love sharing them with you. Feel free to follow me on social media if you would like. Links are in the description below. I don't post too much. So, also, I've included a link to the Marvel data site that'll contain plot synopsis and character bios for the issue we're about to go with. So, we are continuing Walter Simonson's Mighty Thor run, looking at Thor 369 from 1986, part of that Marvel 25th anniversary. Simonson is still doing the covers, however, he is done with the insides. We have Sal Buscema as our interior artist. Walter Simonson is heading to X Factor with his wife, Louise Simonson, who, before they got married, was Louise Jones. John Workman still continues to do his beautiful letters. So, For Whom the Bell Troll. And we pick up right where we left off. So, Thor is looking for Balder and meets these three lovely ladies here. And the redhead says, "We welcome to our humble abode, my lord. I am called Un. My sister Gertha and Kosi, I'm not going to remember the names, just thought I'd let you know. I'm just going to call her redhead, blonde, and I will just call this one brunette, even though the hair is black. Are most anxious to make your acquaintance," says Un, the redhead. "We seldom get visitors here in the castle, and never such a handsome one," she says. So, it does look like Sal Buscema does have an inker working for him. So, I haven't read these stories in probably a little over 10 years. I actually reread them prior to COVID, maybe a few years. So, I would say around 2014, 2015, I reread the Walter Simonson. But it's been a while, so... "Your great hammer proclaims that you must be the noble son of Odin," says the brunette. "None other than Thor, the thunder god himself," red hair. So, will you not set yourself down at the table and share this simple repast? The way to the castle is long, and those who travel here are usually weary from their journey. My thanks, lovely ladies. In truth, I am somewhat fatigued," says Thor. And so he thinks, though my weariness owes less to my journey and more to the fact that I have but lately worn my belt of strength. "Un, a cup for our tired guest," says the brunette. "But am I not so fatigued that I cannot smell the sorcery about this place?" He continues thinking. "And yon cup fairly reeks of it. My thanks, lady, but I quenched my thirst before I arrived," he says. "But tell me, have you seen aught of noble silver-haired warrior I seek news of?" Suddenly he's taken up here. "By the golden spires of Asgard," he says. "What ails this chair? In a moment I shall be crushed against the stone. But I am no powerless victim, dragged with drink, and Mjolnir, the hammer of Thor, shall greet the ceiling for me." And so, boom, off he goes. "An unseemly trick to play upon a guest, but I deem that tricks are the better part of the feast in this castle," says Thor. "Now, my ladies, let us speak more plainly. Anar, help, a madman threatens us." And so, here he goes. "Who dares threaten the ladies of Anar?" And he's like, "What?" says Thor. Fear nothing, my ladies. The brigand shall receive the treatment he deserves, and thine honor shall be avenged. And you can see he swishes the sword. The matter grows more dangerous. This squire is no mere novice, but a seasoned fighter who moves with the grace of a god. If I can but blind my foe for a moment. And so he throws the cup of porridge, I would just assume. His shield parried the missile at the speed of light. Surely no one moves so quickly in all of Asgard, save only Hermod and Balder himself. And Hermod is yet in the Golden City, says Thor. So that only leaves one more. Is it possible I have found my missing comrade, only to perish beneath his merciless blade? So I just love this stuff. I'm very fortunate. I own all of Walter Simonson's Thor run. I have every single issue. And recently I've replaced a lot of the ones that I had in terrible condition. I had some because I read these so much as a kid. I was about 12 years old when this came out. Just freaking loved this stuff. I collect runs more than characters per se. Like I said, I'm very fortunate. I own Walter Simonson's entire Thor run. I got Peter David's entire Hulk run. I have most of Chris Claremont's Uncanny X-Men run in its original, although I still have a lot of the earlier issues in the classic X-Men instead because, even then, who could afford it? And now it's even more unaffordable. So I'm a big fan of runs. So if Thor is absolutely one of my favorite Marvel characters, and I do try to keep up with Thor. So, all right, we continue here. If this is truly Balder, he has been captured by the sorceress of this cursed place, and means to fight to the death. But even Balder cannot fight without a solid footing, and you can see him crash the floor here. And off goes his helmet. Balder, my comrade. And then Thor says, how can I break the spell that binds you? And so he begins to think. And more importantly, how can I stop you when here in how can I stop you when here in Asgard you are immune to all weapons, even mine? Balder is ours, Thunder God, body and soul, and when Thor hesitates, the Shining One will slay you, says the red-haired one. And so he looks here. He says, but what are these that Balder's wears? 3 witches, 3 tokens. Perhaps here is where the answers lie. Mighty though I am no match for Balder's speed, and my hands will never be able to wrest these treasures from him. And so he strikes Mjolnir to the ground. But though I bow to Balder in speed and grace, I bow to no one, friend or foe, in power. And so out loud he says, come forth, you lightning and thunder. Come forth and answer the sorceries of this place. So, love this. Strike the tokens he wears and strip him of their glory. So, Mjolnir does exactly that here. You can see Balder go, ugh. And so Thor runs. He goes, 'tis done. He is freed, and I shall hold these beauties till we see what power they possess. But may the Norns strike me dead if I have harmed my oldest friend. And so Thor says, Balder, are you all right? Oh, Thor, is that you? I feel as though I've just awakened, and yet perchance I dream, for I see a beard where formerly I saw a chin. And Thor says, then you are indeed awake. The beard is new, and it is real. I will explain later to you. It's kind of funny. For many, many years, Thor had the same costume, and he never had a beard. But, of course, now Thor pretty much is bearded all the time, so All right. And Balder says, I remember this castle now and these sorceresses. They gave me gifts of thanks for saving their lives and caused me to forget not only my honor, but all that I hold dear. I do have a Thor playlist. I always forget to mention that in the front of the videos. I do have a Thor playlist, so feel free to check out if you have missed anything. I started with the beginning of Walter Simonson's run at 337, and we have covered every single Simonson written issue. So Balder goes, What manner of creature are you that you would strip a man of his memory and keep him a prisoner of pleasure, though he knew it not, says Balder. And the redhead ones, Handsome Balder, be not angry with us. We have lived here so long and lonely that we could not help but love thee. And Balder's like, well, is there any woman anywhere who would blame us for wanting to keep the gift that the gods had sent us? And the brunette one says, will you not forgive us for the sake of the love we bear? And Thor says, in truth, the three of you are prettier than any maids Thor has seen for all his roaming across the 9 worlds. And so the brunette thinks, then perhaps there is still time to work our will upon these gods. Thor, I would be glad if I could bring thee pleasure, Lord. Gertha, thou art delicate as the dove that flies across the morning meadows. But I learned from a lady named Lorelei never to trust a drink or an appearance, he says. And so it says here a while back, but of course I have covered that. Let me band thee, little dove, with this ring and see exactly what manner of bird we have before us. And she goes, oh, indeed, there is magic in this ring. Perhaps it will disrupt the sorceries of the ladies. And she goes, gack. And the redhead one goes, we are discovered. Gertha has forgotten herself and resumes her true appearance. So we're about to see that these ladies are not that pretty. Then let the game end now. Death, death to the Asgardians. Come, my pretties, let us embrace each of you in turn. And Balder says, troll hags, deadliest of the underground race. And Thor throws Mjolnir and says, who would have looked for them here in the sky? And he hits the brunette here. Is Gertha. All right. Quickly, Kosi, slay Balder, and I shall kill Thor before his thrice accursed hammer returns to his hand. And the blonde says, which is Kosi, says, what, Balder, have you lost the taste for my kisses when once you were such an attentive lover? And he says, perfidious demon, only through stealth and magic have you won your victories, and now you have lost both. And Thor gets his hammer here, Mjolnir. Come closer, Un, and taste Mjolnir's wrath. Another moment, Thunderer, and you'll join your father in oblivion, says Un. And so the blonde goes, you have nowhere to run, Balder. This castle will be your tomb. I am surprised to find troll hags from the depths of the earth living amidst the light of the sky, says Balder. Light is usually a troll's bane. Have you seen the sun up close? And he begins to glow. And she's like, because it's causing her pain here. What? Says Thor. It hurts, Un. Make him stop. You shrink before the light, but you do not turn to stone as do your weaker cousins. Your troll magic is strong indeed, says Baldur's. And Thor thinks here, as is yours, friend Balder, for I have never seen this trick before. But now is the moment to settle these demons who prey upon the innocent passerby. Let the floor of the castle be rent asunder, says Thor, and throws Mjolnir to the ground here. Un, help me! I cannot keep my brace! Un! So Un must be the leader, because everybody talks to her, and Balder, of course, glowing white here, very bright. And in a nice vertical panel here, you can see Un and the blonde falling. So we must assume all three perhaps fell. And so Thor looks down. So perish the slayers of the innocents, the enemies of Asgard. May the castle now become a haven of peace. And Balder says, surely the fates have bound us to a web of tragedy. And Thor, off panel, says, I'll shed no tears for a troll hag, yet amidst this sorcery I stand before a puzzle. You did not seek to slay the hags, and that is Balder's way. But is peace always to be bought at the cost of a life, Thor? He asks. But I have known Balder better than a brother, and never have I seen him play such a trick with light. It is something new, Thor. It cut here, so I didn't see this part. So Balder says, it is something new, Thor. I learned it when I met the Frost Giants. That is in the Balder the Brave Limited series, which I didn't cover, unfortunately. So, eventually, someday, but not yet. They liked it no better than the trolls, he says. So I would imagine it is a fine trick, but perhaps not so pleasing to the eye as the beard you sport, says Balder. Have you decided to look more like the Thor of mortal legend, he continues. So now we return to Earth here, and we're in a suburb of Chicago, it says up here. And here this kid is going, "Aw, Mom, I mean it, you rascals. Get in here this minute. I want the floor of your room picked up before you sit down to supper," the mom says. "And be sure to wash up before you come to the table. What would your daddy think if he saw that stuff all over the rug?" And this other kid says, "Oh, Mom, it's all Jeff's stuff." And Jeff says, "Liar, Bill was playing with Africa corpse again." And the mom says, "I don't care whose stuff it is. It better all be cleaned up before you eat." And this guy goes, "Nice kids you got there, Ruby." "What? Real nice. Glad to see ya done okay for yourself while I was away." And she's like, "Who?" And he says, "Now, don't you close that door too fast, Ruby. We wouldn't want to startle the neighbors, would we?" And Ruby says, "Who are you, mister? What do you want?" "Just to chat for old time's sake." "Why don't you send the kids to their rooms, Ruby? They got some cleaning up to do, don't they?" And Ruby says, "You boys run along and straighten up that stuff. Supper will be ready directly." And he says, "You're not very friendly, Ruby." "We was more than friends once, Ruby." And you can see him kind of holding her here. "Thug Thatcher and you were a lot more than friends." And she's like, "Get your hands off me," says Ruby. "You've got something to say. Say it out and get out." And she hits him with the spatula. "Or I'm calling the cops." And the guy says, "Ya dumb broad, I ain't taking no lip from my ex-ma." And she says, "You're crazy." And he pulls out a gun here. "I don't believe it, but I can see it in your eyes. You really don't remember me, do you? This is more of Thor's dirty work," he says. He ruins my life, sends me to prison, and takes away my girl's memory. Well, he's going to live to regret it, because I know the magic words, Jane Foster. And you're going to help me, honey, or those two boys of yours will need iron lungs." So now back in Asgard here, so we've got a basically a story that'll run now. Kind of he's setting up the next arc. And so Thor says, "'Tis time we were away. The Golden Realm has awaited her new ruler long enough." And Balder says, "And her king would never have returned but for the son of Odin himself. My thanks, Thor, and my apologies. I fear my victory over the Frost Giants was too ready a brew." Again, that was in the Balder Limited series, which I have not covered. And so now we're going back up here. I should have, sorry, I should never have sought one last adventure. And Thor says, "'Tis no less than anyone about to take up the shackles of government might have done, Balder," he says. And Balder asks, "And the tokens?" And Thor, you can see them putting them away. "What say they return with us to Asgard and be given to Ulrich, the warlock, for safekeeping?" And Balder agrees. "A wise decision, my friend." And so Balder continues, "Let us delay our departure no longer, but take the open road in haste." And off panel here, "I pray you, noble sirs, stay thy going but a moment longer." And Balder says, "'Tis the old peddler woman whose wiles brought us to this castle originally." And Thor says, "You'll find no victims to gloat over this time, mother. The troll magic is undone." And she says, "Not all of it, good sirs, for I am as much a victim of it as yourselves. Long have I awaited deliverance, but bound as I was to the troll hags, I could not speak. I could only send brave men to their doom and stand mute. For once I was as fair as the false forms of the troll hags, and they would not forgive me for it. But they are no more, and if you but pluck yonder flowers, the final spell will be broken, and I shall be free forever." And Thor says, "More sorcery, I'll warn. Balder, stand back. Thy life has already been in hazard enough for one adventure." And he plucks it. And he goes, "Oh," and that lady goes, "Oh, oh." And so she does turn pretty. And she goes, "I am myself at last. Oh, my gracious lords, I thank thee both. Would that I could embrace thee together to express my joy and soul. My Lord Thor, may I not return to Asgard with you and Lord Balder? My home is long since vanished, and I have nowhere to turn." Well, and Balder thinks here, "I have just had the very interesting thought. The castle in the sky still soars above the clouds. Please, my lord, could this mean that perhaps the final spell of the troll magic has yet to be undone after all? I would be no trouble," she says, "and this could be it." And he puts on the ring to her. "Balder!" And she just screams, "No!" And you can see here, she drops the sword here. And "Garg," she says. "A troll mother greater than any I have ever seen," says Thor. "And I think I have at last pierced the final enchantment, and her treacherous blade was about to pierce your heart." So it looks like she was out for revenge. "Beware, Balder, she strikes without mercy." "Fear not, she shall not touch me," says Balder. And the troll mother says, "You are still doomed, though the ring has undone my shape. I have not forgotten who my enemies are. Uglitha needs no weapons to kill two godlings." And Thor says, "Could you fulfill these empty boasts, the enemies of the gods would sing your praises indeed," as he slams her in the leg and she screams out in pain, "Arg!" So it sounds more like a pirate, but I'm not about to scream here. So, "I shall shatter your bones and suck the marrow dry, wretched Asgardian. And we shall see if mine are empty boasts," says the troll mother. "Do your worst, mother of evil." Thor stands his ground as the two kind of fight there, and you can see she kind of gets on top of him. "The two of you have slain my husband and daughters. I warned them that Balder the Brave was no one to trifle with, and that he should be slain the same as all the other heroes who entered the gates of the castle to be seduced by the beauties within. But no, they were not content with that, but would have kept him for themselves. They must disobey their mother and play their games of love with the slayer of their father. And though they were merely mortal themselves, fools, but still they were my daughters, and they shall be avenged." So you can see her still rumbling with Thor here. "First you, and then Balder shall fall before a mother's fury. And you can see here, you can see the pain in Thor. Her great bulk pins my arms, he says. I must gird myself for the supreme effort before it's too late, says Thor. And the troll mother says, now you die, Thunderer. And suddenly, my eyes, that burning light, she says. So I think Baldur's using his trick again. Baldur's brilliance hath blinded her. This is the moment when my strength shall free me from her gargantuan body. 'Tis done, as he gets away. And so, great here as he begins to spin Mjolnir. Now there shall be an ending to this madness. Let the hammer of Thor bring down the house of Uglitha. And he throws Mjolnir here forever and strikes the castle, breaking it. And falling here, and he's going to fall on top of Uglitha. At last I can see again. Where are the... What? No! As she sees the castle is about to land on her. And so Thor flies out of the way and says, 'Tis done, as Uglitha gets crushed. And he says, there was no other way, Baldur. The foes of Asgard are as implacable as the march of time. And Baldur says, I know, Thor. Would that it were not so, but so it has ever been, so it shall ever be, he says. And so we get to the last page here. Tell me, Thor, are you sorry that you are not riding home to become the Liege of Asgard? Asks Baldur. And Thor says, that is the question, Baldur. I have been asking myself since first I proposed your names to the great All-Thing, and that's in Thor 366, which I have covered, and is in the playlist. And Baldur says, and? So Thor answers, if I had taken the throne, I would have to have given up adventures such as this. I doubt I could have stood it, he says. And Baldur says, I rode wide-eyed into the honey trap of this castle because I was sorry to give up such things. But after this, I think perhaps being a king would not be a bad idea. I might make less of a fool of myself. He kind of smiles here. And you can see the two of them kind of... It's not really a fist bump. They really do hold hands. But nowadays, that would be a fist bump. So, and perhaps only a different kind of fool, says Thor. Indeed, but no doubt you will show me which knife to use at the state banquets. And so off they go to Asgard. It is good to see you again, Baldur. What say we have that drink for Scourge? The last one through the great gates of Asgard shall pay for it, says Baldur. I accept. Let us ride. And so we get to the end of our tale. Next issue, Thor returns to Earth, and there's a new marshal in town in New York as Justice Peace. It's Town and Jane Foster, and the gentleman's name is Zaniac. Thor 369 by Walter Simonson and Sal Buscema. Like and subscribe. I do thank you for listening. Goodbye.